SeaWorld is making big changes to its show lineup. Find out what's to come.
And an early morning standoff in Southcrest ends with a suspect hospitalized.
Big divisional matchup Thursday night. Find out coming up in sports.
And find out what Lost and Found iconic instrument sold for millions.
Hello and welcome to Newscene. I'm Ivany Villalobos.
And I'm Stephanie Roach. Thank you for joining us.
We begin tonight with breaking news out of France. There's been a massive shooting, explosion, and hostage situation in as many as 3 separate locations. Authorities are reporting as many as 60 people injured and 18 dead, but that number is still climbing. Details are still coming in. No information is available as to whom's responsible.
Back here at home, San Diego police shot a double homicide suspect early this morning after a 3-hour standoff in Southcrest. Authorities say 39-year-old Felipe de Jesus Vega was shot as police moved in to pull him from his car. They say Vega was taken to a hospital and is in stable condition and is expected to survive. Vega is suspected of killing 20-year-old Arlene Iribe and her brother, 22-year-old Alexis Verde, on Sunday night.
The 22-year-old man accused of killing a machete, was arrested in Phoenix earlier this week. Vicente Salas was taken into custody and is expected to be extradited back to San Diego, where he will be formally charged with the death of 43-year-old Vincent Carrera. Carrera did not live at the residence but was a regular visitor. Police described Salas as a heavy meth user known to be violent and carry knives.
Razor blades have been found yet again in a children's playground, this time in Balboa Park. Police say sharp objects were reported around 3 in the afternoon Wednesday. The area was taped off and checked with metal detectors before being reopened. Razors have also been found in several other parks, including Mission Bay and South Bay. Investigators are still checking to see if the incidents are related.
SeaWorld made the starting announcement on Monday on phasing out their infamous Shamu show by the end of 2016. Sam Sandel is here with more on the details. Sam?
Thank you, Ivany. SeaWorld made the announcement amid a wave of criticism and low park attendance stemming from the film Blackfish. The Shamu show has been a part of the park's identity for decades, with the latest version of the show, One Ocean. SeaWorld Entertainment CEO Joel Manby says the show is going to be phased out as part of a shift in focus to promote conservation as part of the company's brand.
We are listening to our guests. We're evolving as a company. We're always changing.
The new Orca experience is less of a performance and will be presented in a natural setting, focusing on the behavior of whales in the wild. Meanwhile, PETA says, an end to SeaWorld's tawdry, circus-style shows is inevitable and necessary, but it's captivity that denies these far-ranging orcas everything that is natural and important to them. But animal rights groups aren't SeaWorld's only critics. Last Monday, California Congressman Adam Schiff said he intended to introduce federal legislation that would end the captivity of orcas. The California Coastal Commission also added on conditions to its approval of SeaWorld's $100 million Blue World orca tank expansion that would ban orca breeding in captivity. A former SeaWorld trainer I spoke with doesn't agree with that decision.
For the Coastal Commission to say that they can't breed anymore, it's like they're penalizing SeaWorld for trying to do something better for the killer whales.
Regardless of how audiences feel about SeaWorld, this is one show that won't go on. Now, I should add, Brandon also mentioned all of the good work SeaWorld has done over the 50 years by rescuing and rehabilitating animals that he fears how all of this controversy could impact those good deeds. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Sam. Over 1,000 employees marched down the streets of downtown to demand higher pay. Fahima Pagmani has that story.
I'm here right now in the Civic Center. There's roughly around 1,000 people here to fight for $15.
Janitors, teachers, and home care workers joined fast food employees in their march, their determination driving them down the street. Hundreds of minimum wage workers walked off their jobs in San Diego to make a point that $9 an hour is not enough to live.
$9.85 can't cut it. $9.85 won't pay our bills. We need $15 an hour. We deserve $15 an hour.
Business owners increased the pay from $8 to $9 last year. They are preparing for another jump to $10 in January. Beatriz Garcia, a full-time mother and worker, says it's more than just money she is fighting for.
Let's at least give them that opportunity to live a life that's dignified and just for everybody.
But then to others, they take on the work of nurses and don't get enough credit.
What I do is I care for my disabled client. He has cerebral palsy and he needs me. He needs us to take care of him.
Workers and non-workers signed a petition for the increase.
1 year from today will be the November elections in 2016. So we're having it today to talk about the power and importance of voting.
The workers say they hope to make a bigger statement as a larger voting bloc at election time. Fahima Pagmani, Newscene.
Several minimum wage protesters believe if everyone does their job in voting in the upcoming election, they will possibly reach their goal of $15 an hour.
A federal grand jury has indicted 8 doctors and associates involved in a $25 million bribery scheme to defraud workers' compensation. This week, the San Diego County's DA's office, along with FBI and state insurance investigators, served 8 search and seizure warrants at locations in San Diego and LA counties. So far, authorities have arrested 5 people in connection to the fraud case.
In Sacramento, an ex-cop convicted of raping a 75-year-old stroke victim in her senior living apartment will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Prosecutors say 52-year-old Gary Dale Blaker entered her home at least 3 times, raping her twice between 2010 and 2012. The woman was recovering from a stroke and couldn't speak. DNA evidence and video convinced the jury to convict Baker, a 22-year-old veteran of Sacramento Police Department.
Los Angeles federal drug agents intercepted thousands of phone calls and text messages this week to monitor drug traffickers across the city. Nearly all the surveillance was authorized by a single state court judge in Riverside County, despite objections who fear the practice may not be legal. During the operations, more than 2 million conversations were intercepted, involving 44,000 people. A gruesome discovery is made at an Arizona hospital. We have the latest on the investigation.
And stay tuned after the break for the highlights of Thursday night's NFL matchup.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here to remind you to do your part to prevent all sparks that can cause a devastating wildfire. Secure any dragging vehicle chains. Dragging chains can spark, causing a wildfire along the freeway without you even knowing it. And did you know your lawnmower blade can strike a hidden rock in dry grass, which can cause a wildfire? And finally, don't park your vehicle over dry grass. A vehicle exhaust pipe is hot enough to spark a devastating wildfire. Don't be responsible for sending our firefighters into danger, especially the cute shirtless ones. He's my favorite. Remember, one less spark is one less wildfire. Visit our website for more information.
Reporting tough stories is never easy, especially when it involves someone you know. This week's Newscene finds itself covering a story on one of our own. Gabi Fernandez is here to explain. Gabi?
Last week, the local NBC affiliate released a surveillance photo of a man the San Diego police was searching for. It turns out that the man is one of our classmates. He's accused of allegedly groping a woman in the aisle of a Target store in Claremont. We reached out to him for his side of his story. He expressed his remorse and he insists that he is cooperating with investigators. The student removed himself from our Newscene class this week. We will have more information as this situation develops. So Ivani and Stephanie, at this moment it is important to let everybody know that there's no charge pressed, and we're going to be letting you know if anything happens.
30 Chipotle restaurants reopened for business this week in the Washington and Oregon area. This follows massive closures which took place after an E. coli breakout when dozens of people became ill as early as July. The public was not informed until October when most of these incidents occurred. The Public Health Department is considering reporting every outbreak in the future. Loyal customers were eager to return after recent deep cleaning and testing.
9 people are dead after a small plane crashed into an apartment in Ohio earlier this week. No one was in the apartment building. About 30 minutes before the crash, you can hear the pilot and co-pilot discuss the weather conditions on the voice recorder from inside the cockpit of the plane. The deadly moment of impact is also heard on the recording, said the vice chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board. The recording has been shipped to the NTSB for further investigation.
And a Texas judge is recovering after being shot outside her home in Austin. Judge Julie Kukurik was shot around 10 p.m. last Friday, leaving her with severe injuries. Officers arrived within 5 minutes of the 911 call and transported her to the hospital. Judge Kukurik was listed in stable condition by Saturday morning. Police say that the 28-year-old Shameen O'Neary is marked as a person of interest and is being questioned on the shooting. O'Neary is currently being charged with unrelated murder charge of 29-year-old Jacoby Alexander in Houston. Police in Arizona are investigating apparent murder-suicide in a hospital in Mesa, Arizona. Workers at Cardon Children's Medical Center found 27-year-old Lola T. Griffith and her 5-year-old son Helios dead in a hospital room early Saturday morning. Officials say Lola had been shot to death, but the cause of death for her son has not yet been released. No word yet on the reason why he was in the hospital. The Arizona Department of Child Safety has already been working on the case with the family just a few days before the shooting. Police are still investigating more as to what led to the incident.
Lambert's family filed a $25 million lawsuit against the South Boston Police Department. ABC News obtained video of the night a man died after being tasered by Boston police. On May 4th, 2013, police was taking Linwood Lambert to the hospital when the man went out of control and he got tased multiple times. Then he admitted to using drugs. Officers decided to take him to the police station instead, where they found out Lambert was unconscious. According to the video, he was back in the hospital an hour later, where he was pronounced dead.
A pipeline company, TransCanada, says it will expand its footprint in the Mexican energy sector by building a 155-mile natural gas pipeline in the center of the country. Construction on the $500 million line will begin in 2016 and will be called the Tuxpan-Tula Pipeline. This contract for the Mexican gas pipeline comes nearly 1 week after the U.S. government declined TransCanada's permit to build the cross-border Keystone XL oil pipeline meant to send oil to southern U.S. refineries.
Thousands of migrants continue to flood the European and African continents in search of a new beginning after fleeing war-torn in Syria. With an estimated 5,000 refugees a day seeking refuge in Slovenia and Croatia, the border is staffed by 24 hours by Australian police and soldiers for security and medical care. The Immigration Summit is set to offer Africa leaders some $2 billion in aid to address the crisis and provide food and shelter.
A federal jury in Seattle awarded $21.5 million to a man who was injured on a cruise ship in 2011. The man from Illinois was injured by an automatic sliding door when he walked through it and got hit in the face and side of the head. His attorney argued during a 9-day trial that dozens of other passengers were also injured by the doors and on the Holland American cruise lines because of problems with their sensors. Another 16 incidents have been investigated.
There's plenty of news going on in the sports department. We have Brian Jeffries here with more.
Thanks, Lavni. So, I thought it was Christmas, but it wasn't. It was just the highlights from the Thursday night football game between the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. A lot of side stories in this one. It was like an afternoon soap opera. First, you have ex-Jet IK Nkapale being promoted from practice squad to co-captain. Weird. This was the doing of ex-Jets, now Bills head coach Rex Ryan. Rex probably made the move since it was Enan Kapali who broke the Jets quarterback Geno Smith's jaw during an altercation in preseason. Talk about psychological warfare. Okay, now that you're all caught up, there actually was football being played. Rex Ryan tactics worked, and the Bills took the lead early and never looked back. Here we see Carlos Williams with a 30-yard touchdown score. Both teams are now 5-4 and tied for second place in the division. This game will surely play a role in how the things shake up going into the playoffs. And moving on down into the NBA world, let's talk about that. It's still very young, but something special is happening. The Golden State Warriors haven't lost yet, and they show no signs of slowing down. And oh yeah, Stephen Curry won't miss a shot. Last night against the Timberwolves, the Warriors were going into their 10th win in as many games. They picked up where they left off the night before, pretty much just passing the ball to Steph Curry and letting him do magic. The reigning MVP, also known as the babyface assassin, went for 18 for 25 and 8 for 13 from behind the arc. Last year, Rookie of the Year, Andrew Wiggins, he was there and he did pretty well, but sometimes your best just isn't good enough, especially when you're playing against a guy that's pretty much a created character. So, can the Golden State Warriors do what the Chicago Bulls did and win 72 games? I'm not sure, but I'm very interested to find out. And that's about all the time I have. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thank you, Ryan. A local group brings the history of World War II to life. We're on the scene of the reenactment.
And City College is hosting a very particular event to honor veterans. Find out what happened after the break.
At this point, education is the most important thing in your lives. The successes of tomorrow are built upon the actions of today.
So anyway, I looked the principal right in the eye and said, all right, quit. So he says, I'm gonna fail. I said, I flunk, you flunk. And then I give him one of these.
Just one question, Mr. Westworth. One question. Mr. Westworth, just one question. One question, Mr. Westworth. Just one question.
Chaz, what are your plans for the future?
Education lets you live your dreams, so you don't have to dream your lives.
Tough it out.
Stay in.
U.S. military veterans can now officially be recognized as veterans on their driver's license. The Department of Motor Vehicles, along with the California Department of Veteran Affairs, announced a special recognition. It allows community and businesses to confirm a veteran status when offering discounts. Vets will pay a one-time $5 fee for the new ID.
About 30 military veterans are on death row in the United States. Many of those veterans suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. This is according to a new report by the Death Penalty Information Center. According to the authors of the study, some judges are often inadequately informed about the effects of PTSD. Lawyers typically don't include these military-related issues because they don't believe it will convince a jury. The center says PTSD often isn't considered when the veterans are sentenced. Coming up this November 15th, the photographer Michael Stokes will release this photo book entitled Always Loyal. The project will highlight American veterans and more especially wounded warriors. In the book, veterans will be showcased showing off their war injuries. There will also be descriptions of how they sustained their injuries. Stokes has created an entire photographic volume dedicated to the Gulf War.
And when somebody mentions reenacting, most people think of Civil War battles. Yet there are many other categories to this hobby. See how one California group represents the lives of those who served in World War II.
70 years after the end of World War II, history enthusiasts still come together to honor and portray the lives of those who served in the past. The 45th Field Hospital is just one of the divisions that belong to the California Historical Group, the organization responsible for putting on these events. Catherine Lowe explains more on the hospital's role during the reenactment.
So the boys will go off and have their tactical missions and fight Germans against Americans, and we will set up a field hospital, and our friends will come back. We will treat the wounded, and we will send them back out to fight.
In addition to simulating battles, the 45th also works with other reenactors to teach the public history beyond what they may have learned in school. Their love for history is clearly expressed in the way they share stories and find ways to help others.
We went through a program called Bundles for Britain, where we collected, in America, we collected a bunch of goods and sent them overseas to not only soldiers, but to families, women, children who were moved out of England, out into the countryside where they didn't have anything.
And it's their job for these reenactors to do what they do to prevent the history of the greatest generation from falling into obscurity.
Some of the reenactments are not open to the public, but if you or someone you know would like to participate, there are several public event gatherings. The next event will be the Great Air Raid of 41 in February. Visit the CHG website for more information.
A new study reveals San Diego is the 6th best city in the country for veterans. According to a study made by the website Wallet Hub, San Diego is one of the best cities in the nation. It offers more jobs for veterans, healthcare services, and more opportunities to continue with their education. Chula Vista ranked 12th in the study, and Irvine, California topped the list at the most livable city in the country. Students, faculty, and guests were present for the grand opening of Voices, a veterans portrait event. Earlier this week, Fahima has a story.
And from all walks of life who served our country. The photos were taken by Professor Dave King and acclaimed illustrator Carol Johnson. They worked with students to honor our vets.
This is an exhibit featuring a lot of veterans that have that either teach here, or veterans that are students, or veterans around the county, and it just kind of tells their stories.
Some veterans showed up wearing their military gear, others looked more like civilians. But they all had one thing in common. They came to support the idea of Voices honoring veterans. Veterans like James D. Riley, who served in World War II, a fighter pilot who spent over 5 years in Germany.
41, and I got out in 50.
Riley says what scared him in the war was not bombs going off or missiles thrown, but rather running out of food.
I guess the big fear was that our food supply.
Not everyone who visited the exhibit actually served in the armed forces. Desiree Robichos was an Army brat and married a soldier. She is proud of it.
My husband is actually in the military and my dad's a veteran, so it's pretty personal to me.
Faculty explained how next year they'd like to make the exhibit even bigger.
Maybe we can reach out to the veterans directly and bring more of the veterans.
The exhibition runs until December 1st. Reporting for Newscene, I'm Fahima Pagmani.
You can find the Loot Gallery in Building V. It's open from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Fridays. Coming up, the highest rated FX series stays for yet another season. The latest on the show coming up.
And it's going to start feeling a lot more like winter. See how temperatures are going to be dropping after the break.
And in the newest poster for the movie, we see Dory with her familiar "Just Keep Swinging" tagline. Finding Dory hits theaters 13 years after Nemo first arrived on screen. Ellen DeGeneres will continue voicing the character of Dory. The film died in June.
And a piece of musical history was sold for a small fortune in Beverly Hills. Julian's auction house sold John Lennon's Gibson's guitar to an undisclosed buyer for $2.4 million. The guitar first went missing in 1963 during a Christmas concert. It was rediscovered by San Diegan John McCaw after going missing for over 50 years. John brought the guitar in the late 1960s for $275. John Lennon is playing the instrument in the video "I Want to Hold Your Hand."
For a sixth season, FX Network ordered creators Ryan and Brad Volchuk for a new season. The premiere of The Hotel marked the second most watched telecast in FX. The question many fans are asking now is, what will the theme be? Entertainment Weekly has suggested some ideas like American Horror Story High School, maybe Broadway or Area 51. American Horror Story is the highest rated series in FX history. Stay tuned for the new series in 2016.
And let's take a look at weather for this weekend. The nights have been a little bit chilly and the mornings a little bit warm, but currently we are 74 degrees along the coast, sunny, northwest winds at 8 miles an hour. And for today, our low will be 52 degrees, mostly clear, with a nice warm up of 71 degrees on sunny skies on Saturday. So you have to really be prepared to bundle up at night and become warm in the morning so you can go out throughout your day. 66 degrees on Sunday, partly cloudy skies, with showers increasing later in the day, so be prepared to have your umbrella with you. Mild winds at 11 miles an hour, 63% humidity, so we're bumping up a little bit from the dry weekend we had before. On Sunday night, 54 degrees with a 20% chance of rain. A few clouds, so light winds, so don't have to worry too much about that. The moon's rise will be at 9:40 a.m., so have to look at that.
You'd say, "Whoa, tell Louisiana," when the brush caught the hose.
A car wash manager
Josh
in Louisiana
Hood
got
with
a closer look
it took
inside
him for
a car
terrifying
wash.
wind.
The man
hose
accidentally got
spooling
stuck
out
into
as
the
he
spinning
spun,
scrubber.
but never running out, so at least he wasn't squeezed as if by a python. Finally, the brush into the car wash. This car wash took Josh for a spin. Kinemo, CNN, New York. Right this minute, that neither he nor the...
A car wash manager in Louisiana got a closer look inside the machines when he accidentally got stuck into a spinning scrubber trying to fix a problem.
And in order to promote fitness with our community and raise money for City College's Fitness Center, the 11th annual 2K Walk Run fundraiser will be tomorrow at 7 a.m. and be held in Mission Bay.
Well, that's it for this week's edition of Newscene. I'm Ivy Villalobos.
And I'm Stephanie Roach. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend.